What's up, fellows? Back at you again with another pre-workout preaching session, as it were. Thinking about these little morning vlogs. Probably saying a lot of stupid, ridiculous stuff, you know what I mean? But that's the fun in it, you know? Kind of just get on a topic and roll with it. Still groggy from sleep, you know? The dream that I just woke up from is still fresh on the mind. So, going to class, I think I was dropped off at school by my mom. And I had like McDonald's coffee and french fries that I was like walking to class with. Great combo, by the way. Going to math class, I get to my math class and I go and sit down and shit, we're having a test. It's test day. And I don't know any of the shit that's on the test. Sit down next to my good friend Alex. Alright. Sitting there and I'm trying to take this test, but it's like I just know that I don't know any of it. My only way is to cheat. You know what I mean? To rely upon my social connections and have them be the test. How well can I actually utilize friendships to overcome this obstacle on this piece of paper? Well, anyways, I'm sitting there, you know, looking at this, trying to fill things out, and I hear one of my friends say, "Dude, I know what you're trying to do, stop." And I hadn't even tried anything yet, but he was like, all of a sudden, this moral and ethical character that was like, "Dude, you can't be cheating," you know what I mean? And then the next thing that I hear him say to me is that ancient Greek? And I was like, what the f*** are you talking about? But thinking about it now, he's probably referring to something on the math test, because a lot of that is ancient Greek. You know what I mean? So, anyways, as time goes on, I'm just like sitting there and I'm just like, I'm gonna flunk this shit. You know, I'm like debating as to whether or not I'm gonna walk out. And then the next thing you know, my teacher turns in Donald freaking Trump. And he's sitting up there in front of the class and he's like preaching all this stuff, dude. And I like took this as an opportunity to like just stop what it was that I was doing, taking this test. So I got up and I started like arguing with freaking Mr. Trump, you know. Made him look like a fool in front of the whole class. And then all of a sudden his advisors, which are in the class as well, he's my math teacher for some odd reason, you know, get after Mr. Trump, and they're like, "Dude, shush, let us handle this." And so then they start coming at me, all his advisors, they start coming at me. And they're just like, you know, saying all this stuff. And then I make them look like idiots too. And then the next thing you know, all of a sudden the police get involved and they're coming at me. And I'm just like, I put up my hands, I'm like, whoa. Like, I'll get back to what I was doing. I'll stop completely. And you know, like, they're about to like handcuff me and take me away. But thankfully, like, I stopped right at that point and they didn't take me away. You know what I mean? Realistically, if this was like a real life situation, I probably would have been taken away regardless. I don't know. You know, that's like a real fascist way to like have a dream where you're just like talking about things, you're not really doing anything, and all of a sudden you get freaking taken away for having an opinion. But anyways, I get back on this test. And then the earlier moment that I had where the kid was telling me not to cheat or whatever, all of a sudden is going to come into play here. Because I hear, you know, and see out of the corner of my eye, this kid that told me not to cheat actually ripping out one of his pages and handing it to a cute girl. Her name's Amanda Exley, alright? And, I heard her whisper to him. And by the way, in real life, this chick is somebody who would not need to cheat. But anyways, in this dream, Alex is helping her cheat. And I heard her say, you know, through the crease in her mouth, a real whisper, "Hey, can you can you give me page 10? And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So he like rips out his page 10. I guess he's just gonna like, you know, put the staple back in when they're all done with this, you know, whatever. And I'm just sitting there, I'm just like, fuck, I am screwed. Like, I don't know the material. Obviously, I don't have the friendship connections that I need to, you know, utilize some social skills to overcome this obstacle here. So I'm just like, fuck. So I just like get up and just walk out. I'm just like, damn, you know? So yeah, that's like my dream in a nutshell. And going back to what it is that led me to the telling of this dream, you know, I'm still a little bit groggy, but I think that kind of adds to these, like, you know, morning vlogs. Like I said, I used to do these exercises every morning. I'd call them morning mountains in my journals, where I would do like math exercises, writing exercises. I'd write like a short poem or whatever. And if I was like having real writer's block, then I would just write like characters over and over repetitively. You know what I mean? To like just kind of focus my mind and tune out everything else and kind of, I guess, recalibrate everything, you know? Called it like morning mountain or morning muse or whatever have you. Used to do that quite a bit. What's up, peeps? Coming at you with my post-workout preaching session. So yeah, today's message is all about mere motivation. What do I mean by mere motivation? Well, when you're in the gym, a lot of people say it's a douchebag move to be looking at yourself in the mirror, right? You know what I mean? But a lot of that growth comes from recognizing and truly feeling the areas that you're trying to grow. The more that you can commit to muscle memory and being aware of the presence of the certain muscle that you're focusing on, the more that you can actually work the specific muscle that you're trying to work out. That being said, mere motivation is truly a wondrous thing. And at times I feel as though it's almost as motivational as having an amazingly beautiful woman next to you at the gym. I'm about to take that mere motivation to the next level, because as soon as we reach the next level, we're looking for the next level. You know what I mean? That's what keeps us growing. That's what keeps us climbing. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing that you can never reach the top. That's a good thing. It's a blessing that we can never reach the top. We're always striving to become better. That being said, mirror motivation. What is it that motivates you? Try to mirror that. Try to replicate that. Try to duplicate what it is that motivates you. See what it is that you want to become in the mirror and focus on that. Mirror motivation. So another thing that's kind of taking precedence in the headlines as of late is this whole immigration thing. Especially here in the United States, you know, there's talk of Trump building the wall on the southern border, you know, between us and our neighbors to the south, Mexico. But I know this is a worldwide issue because in the headlines you always see things about Greece and over in the UK, you know, a lot of the Eastern peoples coming over to those regions. And I'm not necessarily quite sure if this is as much of a problem as the headlines make it out to be, because in a lot of cases, usually the most upset people are the ones that speak out against something. You know what I mean? It's not like the people that are experiencing positive things go out of their way to write like positive things all the time. You just see kind of like the negative peoples in regards to things, and I think people need to take this into consideration with a lot of the news and headlines we see. Usually it's the people that are extremely upset, not necessarily thinking rational, more so emotional, and they're the ones that are kind of screaming and shouting at the top of their lungs, so all of us, you know, have to bear the noise, right? But we don't hear about all the positive things because it's, you know, kind of like an odd thing for somebody to just be running and up and down the street shouting and jumping with joy. You know what I mean? Unless it's something extremely good. But for the most part, if things are just going good, you're not necessarily doing that. You know what I mean? You're just kind of like normal, going about your day, you know? But as soon as something really bad happens to you, or something that, you know, just touches you, upsets you emotionally, then it's like all of a sudden you have free reign to go off your rocker and go out of your way to make everybody else's day miserable, you know? So I'm not necessarily sure if that's it, or if the issue truly is as big as they say it is. Well, let's look at a country like America itself. I mean, it's a land made up of foreigners, those who wanted to go off and adventure. Whether or not their direct or primary motivation was adventure in the first place, either that or it was to escape the situation that they were in before. I mean, we can look at European settlers, we can look at, Eastern settlers coming across Siberia, or those coming across the pond when it was frozen. There are significant amounts of evidence pointing to either. So where do we stand on the whole issue? A land made up of immigrants. And even if you justify, creating a border by saying that the majority of immigrants are people that are in poor situations, so they're trying to escape these situations. Either that or they're very adventurous. You know what I mean? But in most cases, I think that when we're talking about creating a wall and a border, they're saying that the people coming to this land are obviously those that are in a bad situation where it is that they're coming from. Otherwise, why would they leave? If they were in a good spot, then they wouldn't leave. So we're getting all of the worst people from all the different areas. But in a lot of ways, I think that, that's kind of what defines somebody who's adventurous, somebody who's a scrapper. And I think that's kind of what America is. It's a land of scrappers, you know what I mean, and fighters. And in a lot of ways, I think it's one of the most difficult places to grow up. I've traveled quite extensively, and I was having a conversation with somebody about this the other day, and I think that, just due to the sheer amount of competition and the way that everything is set up here, it's really hard to, make a name for yourself. That being said, it's kind of like that everywhere else too. Everybody's established, and if you're not born into the establishment, you're always trying to fight to, be something of an established asset yourself, something recognizable. But, in a lot of ways, it was always kind of that way. You had people kind of coming here to explore new avenues of certain things. And even if, statistically it's shown that the lower demographic classes are the ones that are trying to make it here, in a lot of ways, those are the fighters that have promoted the progress that we've seen over the years come from this great nation, right? Those are the people that are willing to kind of think creatively, to fight against the establishment, the ones that truly try to, think outside of the box, or literally break the line between the box and make it some weird old polygon, So rather than trying to think about, we need to build these physical barriers, I think that more so throughout any culture, and the ones that have lasted the longest amount of time, if we look at the history of different cultures which have, kind of been around for a long, long amount of time, it wasn't necessarily because they built up these physical walls. A lot of those places got demolished. If we look at, in a lot of the Middle Eastern examples, there were a lot of fortified areas, but they became demolished because as soon as you start building up all these walls and everything like that, then it's kind of making something for people to knock over. I think that more so the wall that America needs to focus on, and other places that are having this issue, is to build an internal wall. And what I mean by that is if we look at the cultures that have lasted the longest, they had an internal wall. They had a wall built up upon culture, symbology, motif, and I guess the practices of the people themselves, their belief systems, what it is that they transferred among the other people within the society, whether it was words, whether it was symbols, this fluid motion of ideas through a set given area creates more so of a wall to that which you don't want to enter into it than any physical wall that you could actually build or construct. So build or construct this wall if you're trying to preserve culture, because if we look at the historical facts, then we see that the ones that focused more so on this wall of ideas rather than, these physical borders are the cultures that have lasted the longest and been able to move. We don't want to be confined to our own space either, you know what I mean? It's like this difficult thing. It's like you're building up this wall, but in doing so, you're kind of making it more difficult for us to leave the wall. Let's be something that's fluid, that can stretch, that can move and have motion at the same point in time while retaining what it is and who it is that we are. You know, I think in a lot of ways, America is such a modge podge of all these different places, right? We look at these ancient cultures, and in a lot of ways, we're kind of more so the direct descendants of a lot of these ancient cultures than the people that actually live there geographically today, because the ideas that we embody as a people are more so representative of the ideas that these people embodied back in their day rather than the people that live there now. And you see that they're going through extreme amounts of turmoil, and they don't in any way resemble what it is that their ancestors set up. So in that sense, and even genetically, they might not even resemble the people, you know, just as much as we might not resemble them. But in the structure and organization of our society, it seems as though in a lot of ways, this land of freedom and land of adventure, the great new world, is the direct inheritors and descendants of these once great places, you know? And I don't ever want to narc on any other place. That's not what I'm trying to do here. And I'm not trying to say that all immigrants and everybody like that are the lowest of the low, because, you know, I live in a pretty ghetto ass place. You know what I mean? Like, this is just my rational conclusion. It's like, if we're thinking about things rationally, then obviously why is it that people are leaving where it is that they're going from? And I think that's why America gets a lot of flack, online especially. And I'm somebody who spends a lot of time online, because people from other regions see America as a place that people want to escape to from the situation that they were in, where it is that they left from. And a lot of these other people in other regions look at America and they, you know, think, oh, well, that's where everybody that couldn't make it here went to go to try and make it. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, I think that's true. Because like I said before, if you were doing well, then why would you try to leave in the first place? Unless, you know, your direct intent or motive was adventure. Now, there are some specific, I guess, examples where, you know, there are prominent figures that were well established that came here as well, but that, you know, kind of falls under the categorization of them being adventurers more so than anything. Another thing that I see going on a lot lately is a direct comparison of the United States of America to these singular countries. Now, like, for example, I saw one about a direct comparison with, I guess, Denmark and the entirety of the United States. How are you going to compare this one little region to the entirety of the United States? And it's like, you know, looking at a specific region within the United States that has a population of Denmark. And I'm sure you can pick a region out within the United States that is very competitive in all those different areas with everything that was posted about Denmark. So why don't you directly compare the entirety of, let's say, a body, an organization like the European Union? Now we're getting somewhere. A lot of these posts are extremely biased and they try to invoke emotion, and I don't know if the original creators are just that ignorant or if they're just trying to be trolls and cause an emotional response, you know what I mean, for the sake of causing an emotional response. Like, I would be lying if I said I've never done that before. I remember posting one thing that got a lot of people riled up on Facebook, and I was like, you guys are idiots if you think I'm actually serious about posting this. And I think a lot of them were, you know what I mean? And they were like saying, you ignorant fucktard, pretty much. And I'm like, you guys don't think that I know about this. It's comedy, it's humor, like, get over it. I posted, you know, why are there handicap parking spots? Should handicaps truly be allowed to drive? And you don't think I know all the nuances and ins and outs of what, you know, qualifies and classifies somebody to be handicapped and people of injuries and all this other stuff. Like, I thought it was funny in the moment. I was being a little bit, you know, trollish, but all of a sudden everybody's coming at me like I don't understand, like, the nuances of, like, disabilities or the causes or the difference in disabilities and the people that are truly great and able to overcome their disability and, you know, should be given the right to drive a vehicle. Just because they're disabled in one facet or area doesn't necessarily mean that they shouldn't be able to do anything, right? Because we're all kind of disabled in that sense in regards to our talents and where it is that we fall short. But I think that a lot of these posts, if they are going into such great detail to cite all of these statistics, that they're not necessarily just trolling. And if they are just trolling, it's for a political, motivational agenda. But just to clarify with everybody that's seeing all of this stuff, like, you gotta realize and understand that these comparisons are not the best comparisons. Like, there was another one that said German roads are the best roads, and they showed all these different stats, and I'm just like, you're comparing Germany to the entirety of the United States. You have to realize what the entirety of the United States embodies and encompasses. The geography is extremely different. The cultures are extremely different. The amount of people is an extremely different thing. So is it truly, comparing an apple to an apple here? No, it's not. It's like comparing one state to another state within the United States, which you could probably do. You could probably take out a state within the United States and compare it to Germany and have it be a better representation of a comparison. And there was another one about, look at this Japanese food and how much better it is in the educational system than in America. Like, this is another biased thing. Like, I was on Reddit the other day. I'm subscribed to a Reddit forum called Shitty Food Porn. And it was all about, check out my Japanese pizza. And it was like the grossest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And this was a Japanese student that posted this post to Reddit in this shitty food porn thing. And it's just like, I don't understand what are all these messages on Facebook about. Like, who's spending all the money and time? Like, give me the money, I will create some good shit. Like, who's spending millions of dollars and thousands of dollars on all these advertising campaigns for this bogus and retarded crap? Like, give me the money, I'll create some grand, like, freaking shit that humanity can ogle over and be proud of, rather than just the stupid shit that all you guys are wasting all this shit upon. You know what I mean? Like, let me create something for humanity to be proud of, rather than all this dumb shit that you guys are all freaking just spewing forth from your, like, babbling mouths. You know what I mean?